Welcome, everyone. It is Monday again, and we're back for another show on the online teaching show here on the old YouTube channel. Thanks so much for joining. And we're streaming across Facebook and YouTube. So if you are watching on Facebook, please feel free to say hello. I stream to my Facebook page as well as to my Going Solo Independent Teaching Facebook group. So if you're looking for community of any kind, please join the Facebook Independent Teaching community. You can just search for Going Solo Independent Teaching. All the links for that and for anything that we talk about in the show today will be in the description of this video below. As well, I am running a webinar at the moment called 3 Secrets to Launching and Growing Your Online ESL Teaching Business. Tons of times available, and you can go to onlineteacherdude.com/webinar to check that out. And again, that link is in the description of the video. So happy Monday. It was a public holiday here in Thailand. So public holidays are always kind of weird for us teacherpreneurs or freelancers and people that work online because work still goes on, and I still have students to teach. So it was more of a relaxed day, but still had some things to do. So hope you are having a good start to the week, and hello to you in the chat as well. Motivational channel, hello. Mary, always here and faithful to the show. Thanks, Mary, for being here. Cloudy and cool in Ontario, Canada. Yeah, I bet it is. Hello from Australia, Judy. And we've got our guest, Trevor. Hello from Da Nang, Vietnam, the Language and Culture Shop. Also another Canadian. Cool. Love when Canadians join. I always forget about, yeah, so do I, for sure. And, all the public holidays often are not ones that I generally celebrate. The one that is being honored today is in lieu of Saturday's holiday here in Thailand, which is Wusak Day, a Buddhist holiday. So there we go. If you want to say hi, let us know where you're tuning in from. That would be really, really great. You can use the chat box. And if you are watching the replay, I check all comments on the channel. So feel free to ask any questions of Trevor or I from this interview, or let us know where you're coming in from and that you're watching the replay. Would love to hear from you. So with that being said, this show really is only possible when folks reach out to me and would like to come on. And I would invite you, if you have an independent teacher or teaching story, if you're teaching online in any sort of form, it's really great to hear different people's stories of how they got into online teaching, how they've grown their businesses or how they're starting their businesses, things that they're struggling with, things that they're having success with. It really is, I think, motivational to hear about other people's journeys. Excuse me. So if you've got a story, big or small, feel free to reach out, and I would love to set up a time on the channel to have you on the channel. And I've been on a roll lately. I've had some really great interviews the last few weeks. I've got another good one coming up next Monday. So if you like the show and you like watching these interviews, tune in at 10 a.m. on Mondays on YouTube or Facebook. But I wanted to introduce my next guest, Trevor Dolmont, who is a teacher in Da Nang, Vietnam, and has a really great story. He reached out to me not that long ago, and we've been chatting back and forth, and he graciously agreed to come on the channel and to share a little bit about how he's pivoted his teaching business from language schools to online teaching, and really doing some great things with teachers and with students around the world. So welcome to Trevor. And we match. Look at that.
Copying.
That's right. When I talked to you before the show, I was like, oh my goodness, I don't think I've ever had a guest with almost the same color shirt as me. So yeah, very cool.
Yes. How are you? Thank you. No,
Very
pleasure.
good.
All mine. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, and I also think that you've got the most professional tech setup as well. Your mic is more high tech than mine, so yeah, it's really cool. So we'll get into like what you do in the tech world on YouTube and what you're doing to attract students and stuff like that later on in the show. But I wanted to start just to have you introduce yourself and where are you from, those kind of things.
Yeah, well, like you, I grew up in Eastern Canada. I'm a maritimer through and through. I think before I go through the journey to Asia, it's probably important to know that I'm kind of one of those guys that not really into being a 9 to 5 kind of guy. I always wanted to have my own business and my own projects, and I enjoy working with people, not for people. So having that kind of mind frame, the rest of it might make a little sense because the family didn't think so.
Right.
But yeah, so I grew up in New Brunswick, and once I was a teenager, I think I was 17, I moved to Toronto, and then I spent 6 years in Ottawa. Again, wanting to run businesses. I worked in just about everything you can imagine, but I really enjoyed working in restaurants and pubs and things like that. Of course, the social aspect, and I coached a lot of hockey and things like that. So I really liked working with kids, and I like team-oriented environments. Eventually, I worked my way out to the Rocky Mountains, did a lot of climbing in my younger years, of course, and spent another 6 years in Calgary. And then once I kind of worked my way up after working in the oil fields in several different areas, student teaching, I managed to become a manager in a few restaurants and stuff. And I kind of figured that that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to stay in the sports world, and I wanted to work with kids, and I wanted to own my own restaurant. And I realized that I was working twice as many hours as a manager than I was if I was a bartender or a waiter.
Right.
It was a lot better. And getting on a student teacher list, or what do they call that? Teachers that come in and represent, or
Substitute teaching. Yeah.
Getting a call at 6 a.m. to come in and do some classes. It just didn't really fit my lifestyle. So I had some hard decisions to make. It's like, well, what am I going to do here? Because I'm not going to keep managing restaurants, and it's going to cost ridiculous amounts of money to open a restaurant. So I knew I had to do something. So I thought I'd take what education I had and what I was good at, working with kids and teaching and customer service. So I jumped the pond and ended up in Jakarta, Indonesia. So that was the idea. Go down there, learn the business, teach. I was teaching full time since 2004. So nearly 20 years I've been teaching now in Asia. And I opened up a sports bar there, and I had a contracting company for relocating teachers and stuff as well. I was working full time as a teacher. And it all came crashing down. It wasn't, it's not the best place in the world to open up an alcohol establishment in a Muslim country. It has a few conflicts.
Yes. Yeah.
So I had to change again. So I pivoted to Vietnam. And then I came here in 2012 with the exact same plan: own a school, own a restaurant, and retire. That was the plan. And that's what I was doing. I managed in 2014 to meet up with a lovely young woman named Miss Lei. She's the founder of New Way Education and Training Company Limited. And at the beginning of 2024, we sat down before I ever started working with her, and kind of looked at the whole education system, the ESL business, that is. And we decided that, we kind of identified all the problems, and the problems is not really the grammar per se. It's really the communication and the building up of the confidence to be able to communicate properly. So we decided to go in as a partnership, and we rebuilt her school with an open learning center so kids could come in at any time, plus classes and programs, and we rewrote all the material. And things were going really, really good. And then we eventually decided to move to Da Nang, which was 2019. So long story, trying to make it really short here for you. So we got here in 2019 and built a big school. And just as we were our grand opening, which was February 2020, we got slapped with lockdowns. So I guess we'll get into that later as how we pivoted and everything else. But we ended up losing the school and everything else. So it's been quite the journey. But that's me in a nutshell until I got here.
Yeah, great. Thanks for sharing that. And one thing that Trevor and I realized we had in common was I lived in Sackville, New Brunswick for a number of years, and you are also a Maritimer, which is just down the road.
Yeah, just up in Moncton, a couple hours away.
Up in Moncton. Yeah, it's about, I think, about 40 minutes on a good day. But
Yeah.
yeah, great journey, and I'm impressed that you opened up a bar in Indonesia, but also that you were able to set up language schools in Vietnam. Like, can you talk just a little bit about, like, is that challenging, and how does that kind of go down? You needed to have a partner that was obviously Vietnamese, but maybe folks are curious, like, how do you do that, or is how do foreigners do that, etc.
Well, I guess the short answer is they can't.
Right.
You as a foreigner, I think as I know it, Cambodia is the only one where you can get a business visa and make agreements to hire so many people and actually operate a business, but you can't own land, right? And the tax implications and everything else to actually be a registered partner in Vietnam or Indonesia or most Asian countries is just not worth the time. So the only way you're going to have a school is you're going to have to partner up with someone and make your own private arrangements. So
Right.
the way we did it, she's the founder of the company. She already had the company, and I became the managing partner. And then we made our deal, and that way we could just work together and move on.
I think a lot of folks that think about moving to Asia might have these ideas of setting up a business when they get here. Well, I'm going to open up a bar in Phuket, or I'm going to open up a school in Da Nang or wherever. But I think it's there are many that fail and few that don't, I think. So I'm glad that yours, you had a good partner and a good arrangement, and that's great. This show isn't about how to set up a business in Asia, but I think it's kind of interesting, and glad that it worked well. So then,
Tim, it was a disaster in Indonesia because the partnership fell apart. They all fell apart, and I had to leave the country. So I lost everything in Indonesia.
Yeah, and that's, I think, what I hear about often, like in places like the Philippines and Thailand. I mean, if things go wrong, you don't own it essentially. So you're going to lose everything. And,
you have nothing. You're not a citizen. You don't have any rights there. You don't own anything.
Which is, why online teaching is great for those that want to travel and make an income in a really flexible way. So then COVID hit, and talk to us a little bit about, obviously that changed everything for in-person teaching and language schools. Can you talk a little bit about how you did that and what that looked like for your language schools? And I'm going to go off here for just a minute, and you'll be solo talking. So yeah, tell us a little bit about that transition.
Excuse me. Well, the idea was to build one flagship here in Da Nang and gradually shut down the schools up north, because we're in central Vietnam right now in Da Nang, and we still had a main school operating in Cam Pha, northeastern Vietnam, and classes running in Van Dun, in the city a little bit further in the north. And that was the plan. But when we came here, we already had the intentions of starting a YouTube channel. And the idea was to recreate all the lessons, because we do from preschool all the way to IELTS. So that's your CEFR, A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, C2, and advanced IELTS and TOEFL. So the idea was, slowly over the next 5 years, we were going to recreate and record each lesson so that we could put it on the internet, and that any kid or anybody, adult, didn't matter who, would be able to follow all the programs for free. So it wouldn't matter what your economic status was. You would be able, if you went through each program, you would become quite a fluent communicator in English. So we already had that in mind. But then when we tried to open up in February 2014, 2020, we got locked down, so we never actually got to open the school. We had spent a lot of money building a 3-story building, not building the building, but renovating the building. And we just had some tough decisions to make. Kids were being forced to go to state schools because the schools were shut down. Everything was going online. Zoom was now a thing. And there was a lot of pullback, I guess, or, like a lot of the parents didn't agree or didn't like the idea of doing any kind of classes online. So we had a lot of problems with the parents. Many of them did not want to continue their studies with us as a language center learning English, and they wanted their money back. So that cost us a lot of money. We lost more than half our students. But the first year and a half was really hard. We ended up having to give up the school. We lost everything on that and got a smaller building. And we had the students we had. So the decision was simple. We're going to do everything online now. We're going to learn. We're just jumping in both feet. And we had to start buying electronic, microphones, audio equipment, and lighting, and studios, and green screens, and upgrade the computers, and then we had contracts made up for the parents' consent forms so that we would be able to upload the classes as well for the students, and we didn't have a choice. We just had to learn how to do it. But luckily, we already had some students. The great thing now, after a year and a half or so, is that it's become so common now for people to take courses online, and the industry is booming. Like it's in the billions. Schools are opening up all over the place, that a lot of those students before have come back to us. And with the YouTube and some Facebook and everything else, we've found some new students. We had students in India and Qatar. We have students in the Philippines now, and of course, most of our students are Vietnamese. We've got quite a bit from Indonesia. So it was really one of those things. It's just do or die. Burn the boats and go. And whatever the problem is, don't complain about it. Just find a solution.
I love that. Don't complain about it. Find a solution. I think
I would get angry. I would get angry at the staff if they'd come up and say, "What about this? This is the problem. We can't do that." I'm like, I don't want to hear it. Don't come to me until you tell me what the problem is and what your idea is to fix it.
Right.
Otherwise, don't talk to me about it.
Right. Wow. I think about a lot of the online teachers that might be watching, and many of us came from, companies in China maybe that were it was really easy.
Yeah.
Things were given to you. And then, obviously the whole industry kind of crashed in 2021, and many pivoted to doing it on their own and faced many challenges in doing it. And I think the ones that have been successful at it are just really, full steam ahead. And yes, I know it's going to be hard. Yes, I know there's going to be challenge XYZ, and it's things, are going to fail, and certain things are not going to fail. And, we're just going to pick ourselves up and do the best that we can. But your story is really one of, resilience and just seeing the opportunity that could exist if you gave it a try. Because if you hadn't have, where would you be?
Well, we'd be done if we didn't make the decision and just go head steam ahead, then full steam ahead, and we'd have nothing. We would have lost everything. I'd be back in Canada working in a factory or something.
Right. I think you mentioned when we talked last week that was something you crossed your mind. I mean, am I going to have to go back and do something else? Or so
no, there's no failing. You put your head to it, and you have to go into it knowing you're going to fail.
Right.
It's inevitable. You're going to fail, but you gotta find the positive in that and tweak it and figure out what's the next step. Okay, so that didn't work. What do we do next? And then just do it. Just do it.
Yeah, love that. I was going to ask you what the challenges were, but you touched on those. I mean, you lost a lot of students. I'm sure there were many more. You lost a lot of students. You had to convince parents that online teaching was a viable option. Now it's easier, as you say, because it's kind of become norm and commonplace through the pandemic.
Well, that's
were there any other?
So I was just going to add that a lot of that too is that now the parents can actually watch their kids in class, and they can see the interaction, and they can see year by year, because now we've got 3 years under our belt. In the third year, you can see the progression with the kids. So it's like, well, okay, now there's some evidence.
Yeah. And your school is called New Way English?
Yeah, on YouTube, it's just called New Way English. That's the school here, the actual school.
Okay.
And then it's kind of like two businesses. There's the New Way partnership deal I have, and then English with Trevor is its own business as well.
Okay. And so you're using YouTube and things like that. What does the business look like right now? Let's talk about the online business. Like, what do you do? Who are you teaching? You talked about some students in other countries. What is like the program like? I'd love to hear about, is it 1 hour classes, 30-minute classes? What platform do you teach on? Maybe some of the sort of nitty gritty details of what does it look like? Because I think a lot of teachers watching might be teaching one-on-one lessons with Chinese students and other countries as well, but using pre-made curriculums or resources that they create or find online. What do you do for online teaching with those students?
Okay, well, first of all, before we went online, we had already created our own material. And when I say created our own material, I don't mean we sat down and wrote everything out. What we did was we identified the problem as being communication. It's the number one issue that needs to be addressed. We can use part-time teachers, and they can use their state teachers on their one-on-ones, which they usually do, to work on their grammar classes. It's the communication that's priority. Mm-hmm. So what we decided to do a few years back before was to rewrite everything from kindergarten to IELTS. Mm-hmm. And what we did was we took books from Cambridge, Oxford, Lehman and Pearson Lehman, everywhere, hundreds of books. And we bought a lot of materials and a lot of grammar books and stuff. And what we did was we broke it all down, and we decided every lesson is going to be based on a topic. Okay. Right? And when I worked in state schools, which I did, I probably worked for 100 schools, state schools in Indonesia and Hanoi. And we realized that they want the natives to come in and do the speaking, listening skills, stuff like that. But kids they don't want to sit there and read dialogue and do role play. So we had to figure out a way to trick them. In essence, like, we got to figure out a way to get them interested to ask questions and not worry about making mistakes. So we based every program we have on a topic, and then we take the topics and we take about 20 words out of vocabulary, and then we present it as a game, right? We play a game of the vocab challenge. So I give them clues, we give them videos, we give them scenarios, and then they have to guess what it is, and then we talk about it. I tell a lot of stories to improve the listening skills. Once we do that, which is about an hour, our classes are 2 hours.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. Then we take a short break, and then Miss Lay, my partner, she's a grammarian, I guess you'd call it, grammarian.
Okay.
So she'll come in now and she'll play a game with them, the sentence challenge. So now what they have to do is they have to make complete sentences to be able to output, right? To use these words they just learned and be able to make a sentence with them to learn the meaning of it. Another way of trying to get them to remember what they're learning. And then after that, I come back on, and then I go through the actual reading with them, and I correct the pronunciation and have more discussion with them. And, the idea is that hopefully they learned something outside of English from the topics all around the world. It could be about places to visit. It could be about geography. It could be historical events. It could be dog breeds. It could be whatever it is. So that's how every lesson is designed. And as we keep getting back to it with the next group of kids that come up, we just keep modifying it, making it better and modifying it. And we keep growing on it, keep, working that garden.
Yeah. So
the programs, our STARS programs are juniors and seniors. Basically, the juniors are the kids that come in 5, 6, 7, sometimes 8 or 9. We don't worry about ages. We worry about levels only. We've had classes where 10-year-olds were with university 20-year-olds.
Wow.
And online, it's not really a big deal. So the STARS juniors, I'm trying to go through this as quick as possible here. STARS juniors is kids that nothing, right? They're just learning how to, you show them a picture of a cat and they're just guessing. They say house. They can't read yet. They can't make a sentence yet. There's zero there. That's the juniors. They could stay in that program up to 2 years. It's just a rotating different subjects, different topics every week. Then once they get to the point where they can start making sentences and the comprehension gets up, then we want to get them into seniors, which is where they start learning how to read.
Okay.
Once they can read, then they go into interest for speaking, A1. Because that's
Okay.
really the line for us is, can you read? Okay, well, you can't read, you go into stars.
Mm-hmm.
Once they can read, then they go from our 10 weeks, 2 hours a class, up to 6 students per student, because the kids have a lot more fun, especially with international students. So they make a lot of friends, and there's a lot of communication, and it really helps because they start correcting each other, especially in the games.
Right.
Yeah, I know, it's cool.
Yeah.
So interest for speaking 1, up to interest for speaking 40. Takes about 8 years to do the entire program.
Wow. Jeez.
But
Impressive.
but if the kid starts winning the games and winning the vocab and excelling, well, then we'll move them up to another level. We'll let them try a couple of classes and see if they can compete there. And if they can, then we'll talk to the parents and we'll move them up to the next level. So there's always like 10 levels ahead where there's a group of students already that's been with us for quite some time now.
Right.
Once they finish interest 40, which is a C1 level, and I always have guest teachers coming in the classes too to play the games with them. They beat the crap out of my father and some of my other friends.
That's cool.
It's kind of funny. They get a kick out of it. Of course, got to pay them a little bit, but it's okay. But after that,
your father should do it for free.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah. No, they love it too. They've asked to come back on. They get a real kick out of it.
Geez, I'd do it for free. I'm sure people watching want to see what this looks like, because I
was going to invite you on one of our shows. I was going to invite you on one of our classes so you can come in and have some fun with us. Usually the guests. Sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, this is like really outside of what I think a lot of us maybe watching have ever done, because if you're just teaching one-on-one,
I do one-on-ones, but those are just to fill in some gaps here and there.
Sure, yeah, and there's you're running your own business, as we all are. We can kind of choose how we do things. You want to do group classes, I wanted to ask you, just before you keep going, is like, are these during the day or after school? I'm assuming after school, right?
Yeah, most classes start at 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. and then Saturday morning, afternoon, and nights are full.
So you've got like 7-year-olds 2 hours in a class?
Our juniors actually are an hour and a half.
Okay.
And the online is only an hour, but the on-site, because we do both, right? When we left the main school and we rebuilt everything, excuse me, I'm getting over a little cold here.
That's all right. Take your time.
Instead of having a building with a bunch of classrooms and an open learning center where everybody studies independently, what we've done now is we just created one classroom where we'll just do the locals. But we came to the conclusion that we're not in the business anymore of competing in a market of a 2-kilometer diameter or radius, I guess. Yeah. There's schools everywhere. If you're going to make money in the language industry, you're going to have to go global. There's just no two ways about it.
Yeah.
So now it's one classroom. There's another backup classroom if we need it, but not often. Now we have 2 studios and everything. 90% of our classes are all done online. So the really young kids, juniors, they'll be about an hour online because we take a break. We'll do an hour and a half. Interest, once they can read, then you have the 3 parts with the break, then they're 2 hours full on.
Okay. Cool. And I mean, you got to find what works for your students and their families. And, but I like it. I really like your model. I think it's got just such amazing potential for students to grow. And as, Mary said, or someone said here, young learners interactive library. It's great that you take them from beginning to level 40. Mary likes the idea of guest teachers. So yeah, maybe you might have some.
Oh yeah. Well, we'll talk about that at the end. Yeah,
for sure. I wanted to jump into maybe your YouTube and marketing and stuff like that. How are you getting your students? I know you had the advantage of already having the language school and you were able to take some of those. But you said you've got students in other countries, and your YouTube channel is great, by the way. And I'm linking that in the description below if anyone wants to check out English with Trevor. Really great stuff there. And you've got class examples and things like that. Are you attracting students through YouTube? And how's that going? Or how are you doing it?
Okay, well, first, Interest 40 is not the end. Then we have another program called More Than Just English. So now we have
Okay.
all our advanced teenage students and some university students. And what we do is we take really, really sophisticated books. Like right now we're doing Think and Grow Rich. And we're going to do Stoic. We're going to do Marcus Aurelius Diaries.
Yeah.
Jordan Peterson.
Great.
So really difficult books to understand. And then we cut the book all up into parts, of course, 4 or 5 pages, and then we take the vocabulary out again and do the same thing all over again. So they're not just learning English, they're practicing their English at a very high level, but we're also learning other educational content. So and that's picking up too. We got one class going with that as well.
Cool.
So okay, back to your question. I'm sorry, I just wanted to finish with all the programs.
Yeah. No, thanks for sharing that. That's really neat. Like marketing, how are you using YouTube and stuff like that to market and get new students?
Miss Lay and I argue about it sometimes. We have different opinions on how to do this. The fact is, it's word of mouth is still number one.
Yeah.
We just got 2 more students down southern Vietnam. That's a cousin of one of the students we have up north because she won a spelling competition. It's like, well, how come your daughter's so good in English? Oh, she goes to Trevor in Niue. And then all of a sudden we have their 2 kids now. So word of mouth by far. And there's no question about it.
Yeah.
Now, we have done some regular advertising and done some little short videos and stuff and shown some clips from classes and testing and different things on Facebook. We've had a lot of interest, but they don't know us and we haven't built the trust yet. We've gotten a couple of students on that. And then we've gotten a few students because they've come across the YouTube videos.
Great.
So I would say if you can put yourself in a position where, you're telling the news or because I do like a news report about how the kids are doing in the class because they like it. And then we record all the classes. I edit them and cut out all the slow parts or the silly things. And then we post them up and I try to put every class in. It's a lot of work, so it's hard to keep up. They're not complete. I'll be doing this for the next 5 years. But all the tests go up right away. Okay. As soon as the tests are done, those get posted. And I would say that's our best marketing tool right now.
Okay.
Is
the videos of the
tests.
tests.
You connect your school with YouTube, then you got a chance to grow, I think. But again, it takes time. It's a marathon, not a race.
But it really is the best way, I think. Video is just the best way to build
by far.
trust.
Oh yeah, there's no
it's
question.
Phenomenal. So online teachers, get out there on video if you can. It's a great way to.
You have to.
Show your face.
You have to.
Yeah.
There's like 15 million English teachers now on the internet. Like it's
really.
Oh yeah, and it just keeps growing. Like
yeah. Well, again, your YouTube is linked below, and encourage and invite folks to go check that out and see what you're doing because it's certainly inspiring. What are the plans for the future? What are you thinking of doing next? Or are you continuing just sort of to grow? I'm sure you're super busy. This sounds very full time for you, I'm guessing.
It's nonstop. You get up first thing in the morning, you take care of health, get to the park about an hour or so, then come back and study because there's such a learning curve. Then around 10:30, 11, we hire a lot of university students that come in and they help me do all the class preparations and slides and videos and everything. Then I got to go a few hours with them to prepare all the classes. Right. And then lunch, a little nap. The afternoon is get ready for showtime for the classes and, and whatever else little jobs need to be done. And then as soon as classes are done, it's 3 or 4 hours of editing. That's just 7 days a week. It's nonstop.
Now, are you the only one teaching online, or do you have other folks teaching?
We had a lovely young woman named Rose. She's a Filipino. We had a lot of Filipino teachers at one point. She was absolutely amazing. But when COVID hit, we couldn't keep any more staff. So it was just me and Lay and just part-time staff to help support us. And so now I do all the classes by myself. Lay has some of her own classes. Miss Lay, my partner, the founder. And I've realized now that we've gone online and how we're working out of studios, the overhead's much lower. There's admin work to do, but with the direction we're going, which is what you were asking me, is I don't want to go back. I think we had 23 teachers at one point, or 23 staff, I should say, not teachers. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of headaches and a lot of personalities, and they're all over the place. It's hard to manage, and you don't want to micromanage. And it's a lot. It was a lot of conflict, and it was not a fun job anymore.
Mm.
So to me now, the direction I'll go into New Way and myself, but I think the future for me is building more studios, and basically people want to work with us and make their own channels and want to teach their own stuff. Then we can work together and create kind of a partnership. But it's not gonna. I'm not gonna hire someone to come and do it anymore. Like, it's kind of like the hockey team, right? I don't need to hire players to come and play on my team. They all want to win. So the more we work together, everybody wins.
Yeah, I like that. I like that partnership idea. I think that could work really, really well.
Yeah, I'll just keep building the facilities, and if they want to come in and participate, then come on in,
Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's great.
But the direction now about New Way English with Trevor. With New Way English, I'd really like to, because it's really all it's doing is just posting videos of my classes, Lay's class, and past teachers. So there's really no draw to that. What I really would like to do is at some point here is allow other teachers who have classes of interest and different things like that to talk to us about, what they want to teach and everything else. And maybe they can do a couple of demos or something, and we can post it on there. And then with the information to contact New Way. And if there's an interest, then they can use that platform to teach other students.
Right.
Teach their own students and make their own deals and make their own money.
Yeah.
The channel's there. It has access to the thousands we have now.
Yeah.
And, for us, we don't need to charge anybody, because we would make our money on the channel itself in the future as it grows. And if we have more teachers using the platform, everybody wins.
Yeah, no, I think that's great.
I think that's the best way to run New Way.
Yeah.
Because we're never going to open up another big school and run a bunch of classes. Everything's going to be on.
Right. And, like you say, you don't want to go in that direction anymore. And I think
things are changing so fast right now.
The online way.
Oh yeah, it's a new world right now with AI the way it is, and the new COVID era, and the online industry and the education online.
Yeah. Cool. Andrew says, what process do you use to turn 4 to 5 pages of an original book into a lesson, apart from just vocabulary?
Right. Well, I mean, you could always just use a Chat GTP and have them rewrite it for you.
Yeah, you can. That's right.
That works quite well, as I've been experimenting with. No, I just picked the grammar points out of there to keep it, because I eventually, when I finish all the programs, I do want to come back and I want to kind of create a character, like a little detective or something, and then teach all the grammar, create all the classes linked to that A2 topic.
Yeah.
And we were dealing with past simple and present perfect or something like that. And then I want to use the same character. And if I, hopefully, as technology keeps going here, because it'll be a couple of years, I'll be able to link all the grammar lessons with it in an animation form.
Ah, look at that. That would be fantastic.
That's a future project.
Yeah, really. I like that. That's really cool.
So for the answer there is, how do I take 4 or 5 pages? Every lesson I've picked has 2 pages and it has a topic. It has a reading. I just take the words, and not all, like I might just take 10 words out of there, and I might myself add 10 words. I always use 20 words for vocab. So that's how I do it. I just take the words that I don't think they know, or I think will be relevant to what they're going to need to know in their, in their future in Vietnam. I don't think Putin in Canada is really important to someone living in Vietnam. So I might forget that one,
Yeah.
And then the sentence challenge.
Important,
I just keep thinking about Russia.
Right.
And the sentence challenge is the same words. And then the reading is the reading I took. I just try to modify the reading as I go every time I get back to it, because I don't want to be using copyright material.
So you're not making PPT slides and things like that, right? You've just kind of got a topic, a reading, vocabulary, and grammar.
A TPT? What?
Like a PPT, a PowerPoint presentation type of thing. You're not making slides or anything like that.
Oh yeah, no,
Just
I take
oh,
I
you
take the
are.
topics and then I highlight all the words I want and I write down on the lesson what I want. I put it down in admin to the university girls that come in and work here, and then they use PowerPoint and then we use Storyblocks so we can get all our videos from. We pay for that license, so it's all copyright material. We have a
Okay.
license, and then we start filling in, and you'll see in any of the videos on the channels, everything is in video form, and there might be 2 or 3 videos on one slide or
Right.
one,
Okay.
and then that's what we create to teach them the word. We use visual effects,
Cool.
videos.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cindy says, I love AI.
Oh, it's changing the world
Tuning in
pretty
from
quick.
Rome. Yeah. So let's lead into so you were mentioning, collaborating and maybe, just connecting with other teachers and the possibilities of maybe working together. How can what would be the best way for folks to get in touch? Because I think people I don't see any questions yet, but there might be questions in the replay of people that are, maybe interested in this type of marketing and teaching. How can people get in touch with you?
Well, I've got the website up, English with Trevor. There's none for New Way right now. The contacts are there, but I'm still learning how to build a proper website. So the easiest way to get a hold of any of us here at New Way is the YouTube channels. All the contacts are in the about, or the Facebook, right? So New Way English or English with Trevor.
Yep.
And
I'll stick those in the
contacts are there.
I'll put those in the chat now, but if you're watching the replay, they'll be down in the okay, I see that. Didn't quite link the way I wanted it to. Let's just do a little copy and paste here. Mary says fascinating and mind-blowing. Yeah, I know, Mary. It's really great what you're doing, Trevor, and
thank you.
Honored to chat with you, and thanks for reaching out. I think your pivoting story is really great, but I'm also, now I'm really hearing more about your program. I want to see more of what you're doing, and it's really impressive.
Well, I'll
and
have
very
you on
different from what I'm doing. What's that?
So I'll have to have you on as one of the guests for in
yes, that would be really. Yeah, no, that would be really, really fun. I'd enjoy that. And time zones work out well because you're in the same one as me. So
we are, absolutely. So 7 o'clock for you as well.
Yep. So, well, thanks. Trying to keep it to less than an hour here. Was there anything else that we didn't talk about or that you wanted to bring up? I think we kind of
we touched pretty much everything. We could have talked about lots more, but I mean, yeah. maybe
well, maybe we could do a part 2 in the future. So yeah, let us know in the comments if you want to have Trevor back and talk more about something else. Maybe whatever you want. But another thing I wanted to bring up was I love how you identified the problem, right? Like you identified that communication was an issue, and that's how you built your program. And I think that's really cool. Like no matter what students you're working with, like what problem are you solving for them? And build your program around that, and focus on those improvements in those areas. And for your Vietnamese kids, it was communication. Well, there was a lot of grammar in schools.
Identifying the problem, number one, of course. We kind of took the attitude that we're the doctors. So what's the problem? That was number one. Number two was
they're coming for English for a reason, right? They may not know what the reason is at a young age, and their parents are maybe. I know with the Chinese market, it's very much keeping up with your neighbor. But identify the problem. Yeah, keep going, and then you built your program.
Well, it was also about not copying anybody. We had the attitude right off the get-go that who cares what everybody else is doing? Let's just identify what we believe has to be fixed and what we believe the parents are really looking for, and let's go with that. Yeah. And the other thing is we wanted to make sure that whatever we do had to be high energy and not boring.
Right. Cool.
So those are the 3 golden rules. And this is where it's taken us, and I try to watch other people online and I do. And I'm more of a critic than a friend. But that's just
no, it's great. Do your own thing, and sometimes it's just better to keep the blindfolds on and focus on what you do well. And I think that's where
Well, Peter
you find
McKinnon
the
said
most
something about
success.
that recently in one of his videos. He said, what was one of the secrets to your success? And he said, or the guy said, what's one of the secrets? I mean, there's a lot of people out there. I don't know if you're Peter McKinnon, the photographer and Canadian photographer. He's a very big
Yes.
YouTuber.
Now I know. Yep.
Yeah. And he said, number one was that I found all the videos. Yeah, they're all the same, but they're all boring.
Right.
So just
How
try
can
to
you do it
find ways
differently?
to have fun with it. Yeah. And it's worked
Yeah.
out great for him. So I kind of like that idea.
Yeah.
But the
Definitely.
last thing I wanted to say was about collaborating. Like New Way's definitely moving towards more of a platform. English with Trevor is really just a database. It's going to be every level possible over the next 5 years when I finish it, where anybody anywhere in the world can just go lesson 1 to lesson 1,000 and be able to communicate, and they don't have to pay a penny.
Wow.
But in a couple of weeks, I start my Trevor Dollamont podcast, and that's where I'll start interviewing all kinds of different startup companies on YouTube and on the internet. And I'm also going to chase down a lot of these COVID stories. How did it affect them? And I think that'll be a big market. A lot of people out there with a story to tell.
Absolutely. That'll be great. So
I'm looking
let
to
me know when
collaborate
that's
with
up and running.
Yeah, well, I already talked to you about that, and I definitely have to down the road get you in an interview.
That would be really cool. Well, thanks, Trevor. Again, pleasure to have you on, and I know that this was enjoyable for those watching. Thank you so much. It's late where you are and where I am, so we'll sign off. But all the best, my friend, and stay in touch. And
absolutely. We'll do this again. No, it's a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on. Good night, everybody.
Trevor. Take care. Good night. Well, thanks everyone for watching. That was a great story, man, and you're super inspiring. We could have talked about many things, and hopefully we touched on some interesting things to inspire you and maybe help you to think outside the box about what's possible. When you work hard and rather than seeing problems, see opportunities. So again, if you're watching the replay of this, please let me know in the comments if you've got any questions for us. Trevor's links are below, as are mine. I invite you to join the Facebook community, as well as if you haven't already watched my free webinar, you're welcome to check that out at onlineteacherdo.com/webinar. Sorry. And I will see you all next Monday for another great interview. Take care, everyone. And thanks for watching.